folks, welcome to another edition of Play Branson, where you get to know Branson's entertainers better. And today, for the first time ever, we are doing a bass player, Mike Williamson, who's with #1 hits of the 60s. Just got Bass Player of the Year at the Terry Music Awards. And so we're excited to have him on the show. We would love to have lots of different artists come on the show as well. And so we're excited that he's here today. It is almost the middle of October. This is a great time to come to Branson. We have things like War Eagle Weekend happening in the area soon. Of course, we've got all the crafts out at Silver Dollar City and Pumpkin Nights. And so a lot going on in the fall in Branson. And if you haven't been here, you need to come. And we'd love to see you here. We're going to be back in just a moment with more, and stay tuned. We'll be right back.
There are so many things to do in Branson. You need help planning and booking all your fun. You need iBranson.com. You can find everything Branson has to offer from your computer, tablet, or cell phone. You can even buy tickets online or talk to one of their friendly Branson travel specialists. There's no sales pitches, no delivery fees, no service fees, and no waiting. It's fast and easy. Find your fun at iBranson.com. Do it all online or call 877-ENTERTAIN. That's 877-368-3782. iBranson.com.
Hey folks, welcome back to Play Branson, and today I am here with Mike Williamson from #1 hits of the 60s, and I was saying off camera, I think you are my first bass player to be on the show.
Well, how about that?
And so that's awesome. I'm excited, but not only are you any bass player, you just got a big, huge award for Bass Player of the Year for the Branson Terry Music Awards. So congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
So were you actually at the event?
I was there,
You
yeah.
were there, okay.
Yeah.
But okay, so that's a cool deal, but I want to go way back before you got to that point. Is like, tell people how you got into this business and how it all started.
I was kind of born into a musical family on my mother's side. They've lived in Taney County, Christian County area for a couple hundred years. I think
Wow.
it's 12 generations now.
12 generations,
And,
that's amazing.
And everybody kind of grew up knowing how to sing harmony and chord a guitar, because that's what they did for entertainment in the hills back then.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I was born into it, I suppose.
Yeah. And so did you, like growing up in high school, did you play bass in high school then, or?
Well, of course, guitar was my first instrument because
Okay.
Everybody in the family knew how to play guitar. I picked up trumpet when I was 8 years old, and I worked my way down through all the brass instruments, up through school band and
Mm-hmm.
like that. And I started bass, I think I was probably about 12 or 13 years old when I started playing bass.
So by the time you were 12 or 13, you knew a lot of instruments already then.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's pretty awesome.
And after that, I kind of added things here and there. There's a fairly long list of instruments that I play at. I couldn't rattle them off to you off the top of my head, but...
So you're in school and you're doing all this. Were you in any bands then in high school, or?
I started my first band in 1975, I think it was. Nobody in the band was old enough to drive. Our moms had to drive us to the gigs. That band had some interesting gigs.
What kind of music did you play?
We played mostly stuff that was on the radio at the time. Pop, rock, folk.
What happened after you got out of high school? Where did your musical journey take you then?
Well, let's see. My first job out of high school was I was playing in a Dixieland band at Six Flags in St. Louis.
Okay.
Right out of high school, that was my first job out of high school, and from there, I played in all kinds of different groups, all kinds of different styles.
So you're like, I know I'm going to make music my career. I mean, my life.
Yeah. Well, I'm not really much good for anything else.
That's pretty funny.
I've had one or two, regular jobs that they didn't last.
Yeah. And so, like, when did you start, like, performing in shows in Branson then?
Well, this is my 5th season.
5th season? Mm-hmm. Okay, so you weren't necessarily in Branson even though you've lived here, you haven't been in shows the whole time.
No, I've lived in the area, southern Missouri area, all my life, but not in Branson per se. But I got the job at number 1 hits of the 60's. It's kind of word of mouth. Who you know, who knows that there's an opening, things like that. An old college friend of mine told me that there was a post on Facebook. Matt and Amber, my bosses at the 60's, had posted, does anybody know a hip, groovy bass player that reads music? And he was friends with him on Facebook and saw the post. And he said, yeah, I know one. And so I sent him a message, and I had a meeting with him. I took a look at the bass charts, and I said, okay, and they said, okay, and
then the rest is history.
The rest is history.
Yeah, and so you've been with them for the last 5 years.
5 years, yeah.
Then, okay. And do you do other stuff still? Is that correct, besides that?
I do. I have a band with my brother and some of our cousins called Big Smith, and we play, occasionally.
And I've heard of Big Smith, so I think, people know Big Smith.
Well, we've been around for just over 20 years now, I guess. We don't play a lot anymore. We don't actively, we've never had a booking agent, and a lot of musicians are not good at booking themselves.
So if I became a booking agent, I could get you as maybe a client?
Sure, you bet.
Hey, there we go. I can start another new business.
How does
just what I need?
How does 20% sound?
Yeah. Hey, that sounds good to me.
All right.
20%. I'll take 20. There we go. That would be hilarious, actually. But yeah, I think that's you bring up a good point actually with bands, because entertainers typically are good at entertaining. But then they have other people that do all that other stuff.
Well, and some entertainers are great at self-promotion, some aren't, like me.
Yeah.
I don't know, they don't like to talk about themselves or what it is exactly.
Yeah. So, family still in the area?
Yep. My mother's side of the family, their last name is Ballou. My cousin Joy was a singer at the Ball Knobbers for years.
Oh,
years.
yes.
Her grandfather on her mother's side was Bill Mabe.
Yeah.
And so, still have relatives living down along Bull Creek, where they have for the last couple hundred years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Folks, we're going to stop right here. We'll be back in just a minute with more from Mike Williamson with number 1 hits of the 60s.
Stand by me. You just keep me hanging on. Oh, why, she ran away. Stop in the name of love. Oh, baby, give me one more chance. Show me that I love you. And I've kissed it 1,000 times. Let the sun shine.
Hey folks, welcome back to Play Branson, where you get to know Branson's entertainers better. I am here today with Mike Williamson, bass player for number 1 hits of the 60s, also part of another band called Big Smith. And so you were telling me off screen that Big Smith's going to be playing later this year over in Fayetteville. So let's give a quick plug on that.
All right, December 28th. December 28th at George's Majestic Lounge in Fayetteville, Arkansas.
There we go. So if someone wants to see Big Smith, go over to Fayetteville and hang out there during the Christmas holidays. Okay, so Let's talk about number one hits of the 60s.
All right.
If someone's never seen that show, what can they expect?
Non-stop action.
Non-stop action.
Yeah. Yep. Singers, dancers, comedy, skits, music, never stops, medley, everything's in medley form. I think we touch on about 100 songs.
100 songs.
In the
That's a
show?
lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
All the 60s, all this Motown, Beatles, all top 40 songs from the 60s. We do some 50s early in the show. We do a little bit of 70s. So we overlap on the ends a little bit.
So you gotta know a lot of stuff.
Well, I grew up in the 60s and 70s, and so, you know, I knew all the songs already. The show was really kind of tailor-made for me.
Yeah.
You know.
And that's why they've kept you 5 years, right?
Well, I guess so. I don't know. You'd have to ask my bosses, but you know.
So as a bass player, a lot of times people think the bass player just kind of hangs out in the back.
Oh well. Yeah.
And is that what you do, or do you come up front at
Sure.
all?
No, I don't. I don't travel the stage very much, but yeah. Well, that is true though. The bass kind of stays in the background, but bass keeps the beat. Bass, you know, bass hits the tonic of the chord for the. I don't know. That's
It sounds good.
It's a little technical.
Yeah, it's okay. It's
you
okay.
know.
But it's an important component of the show.
Well, yeah. If the bass player doesn't play the one on the beat, you know,
Yeah.
it's not good.
Yeah.
It's not good. Bass always has to know where he is.
Yeah. Do you ever like get where you've done the show so many times, like it's like you can just play and not even realize what you're doing? Like does that, or do you really got to focus on?
At this point, I do occasionally. My mind will wander occasionally, and I'll get a few pages behind in the score, you know. And all of a sudden we're on the next song, and you know, key change coming up, and turn some pages and get back on.
Yeah.
Back on track, but I have it most of it's in my head, good, you know, well enough that I think I do okay most of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The show itself is at the Clay Cooper Theater, and time-wise, know what time it is? The show?
What time does the show play? The show is it's a 2:00 show, and right now it's every day except Wednesdays and Fridays.
Okay. And does that schedule change in November, December, or?
No, actually, we go to 5 days a week at the beginning of September. So we're in the 5 shows a week stretch now.
Okay.
Earlier in the year, it's four shows a week.
Well, and when you talk about it's action-packed, it really is, and it moves, and there's a lot going on, and they're dancing, and
yeah, I've never been to Vegas, but I imagine that it's a lot like a Vegas show. Yeah.
So how do you think you got this award? Like, bass
I
player
don't
of the
know.
year?
I didn't think anybody in Branson knew who I was.
Because he's good.
Well.
So were you like, when that night happened, were you like shocked and surprised? And
It was a surprise.
Yeah.
Like I said, I didn't know anybody knew who I was.
Yeah.
You know.
yeah, well, it's cool. It's awesome. And now
It's nice, yeah.
there are lots of award shows in Branson. Well, there's several. I mean, I don't know, 2 or 3 maybe. But I always think when you can be recognized for your skill, that's
Oh, it's great. Yeah, it's the best.
good,
Yeah.
You know. And so I'm excited that you're here and that I've had my first bass player of the year. And really what we want to do on this show is we'd love to expand and get like more musicians that sometimes, you know, that maybe aren't always the front people on stage, just because like there's interesting history there. And you know, if people are seeing your show, they don't necessarily know you're also in another band. You know?
Sure. Yeah.
So
Well, when you get to be as old as I am, your list of credentials gets longer.
Yeah. So is there other artists that you played with that maybe we would know of?
Yeah, I've opened shows with different groups for a lot of different people. Emmylou Harris, Del McCoury, Al Green.
Okay. Yeah, there you go.
I don't know. There's a big long list of them, but I write that down so I don't have to remember it in my head.
Now it says you actually here went to 3 colleges: College of the Ozarks, New Mexico State University, and University of Missouri. And so I'm just wondering if you got kicked out of them all and you had to keep going to another one.
Well, I kind of kicked myself out of them. No, I actually did not stay at any of them very long. Long enough to learn some music theory. I wasn't the best at going to class and things like that. You know, I'd make it to the music classes.
Yeah. It says here, and so some of those other instruments, it says that you can play mandolin, ukulele, dulcimer, harmonica. Oh, I love the harmonica and percussion. So I don't think we have enough harmonica in Branson. I really don't. What do you think?
Let's
What do you think about
let's
that?
see what we can do about that.
Yeah. We need to start like promoting more harmonica. Do you think they'd let you play the harmonica? Do you think they'd let you play the harmonica in number 1 hits of the 60s, or does that just not fit the genre?
There was not a lot of harmonica in 60s music, I don't guess. So.
Okay, I can
Bob
at least
Dylan-
try.
Bob Dylan,
I can
maybe.
try.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, that's the thought that counts.
Yes. So, do you go out after the show and sign autographs?
I do, yeah.
You do. Okay, folks.
I do. I go out in the line, I shake hands, I sign autographs. They tell me how they like the way my hair blows in the wind while I'm on stage.
Yeah. So it blows it. They have a fan on you.
I have a little fan. I brought a fan in because, you know, it was hot in the summer and I needed, and they said, "Oh, that looks cool, the way your hair is blowing." And my boss said 2 things. Always have your fan turned on, never take off your sunglasses.
Okay. There we go. So do you ever, I got to ask this question, do you ever get like any old ladies that come up to you and say you should cut your hair?
Oh no, they love it.
They love it.
Yeah.
There you go. You heard it here first. They love his long hair.
They do.
I used to have long hair back in the 80s, and I loved it. I don't have hardly any hair now. I can't do it. But if I could have long hair, I would. And I used to fight with my dad all the time about it. And then, you know, got the real job. So anyway.
Well, you know, I started letting it grow in the 70s, and I've had no reason to cut it. You know.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, folks, this has been another crazy edition of Play Branson, and you got to know Mike Williamson, bass player at number 1 hits of the 60s. Go check him out there. It's at the Clay Cooper Theater. You can get tickets at ibranson.com, and we'll be back in just a moment to wrap the show up. Thanks for watching Play Branson today. It was awesome having Mike on the show. I love the long hair, Mike. And so if you go over there and go to the show, make sure you tell him you saw him here on Play Branson. Our next episode, I'm excited to have Ellen Peterson from the Peterson Family Band. Might be the Peterson Band now. Every time I'm talking to him, the name changes. Just joking. But so we're looking forward to having Ellen here. And some things that are coming up. Down at the in Hollister, they have the Hollister Grape and Fall Festival. That's going to be happening on October 12th from 10 a.m. to about midnight. And so it's one of the largest annual events for the Hollister community. That festival runs all day and is friendly for family. And so be sure and check that out. That's down on Downing Street in Hollister, Missouri. Also this next week in Branson, we have a lot of entertainers coming back in town. So Mo Bandy will be here on October 16th. We also have Gary Lewis and the Playboys on October 12th. And some of the folks from Herman's Hermits will be here October 18th. So got some special one-off entertainers coming in for a night here in Branson, as well as all our awesome shows that are here almost every night. Folks, if you need help planning your entire Branson vacation, be sure to go to ibranson.com. Those folks can help you. You can book online, over the phone, or in person. They have lots of ticket locations around Branson as well. Or you can call them at 877-ENTERTAIN. Be sure to like us on Facebook.com/Play Branson. We'd love to hear from you. Tell us who you'd like to see on the show, and we'll do our best to get them on. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week here on Play Branson.